Usually the coach would always drop Kevin off. He should have been home. I called the coach and I said, Kevin isn't here.
And that's when we all realized Kevin had disappeared.
This was a total mystery.
I was in shock.
Kevin Collins becomes a household name, but for all the wrong reasons.
The most important thing to do was get his face out there.
A family friend says that he saw Kevin waiting for the bus.
Kevin just disappeared. We don't know where he went or how he got there.
This heartbreaking story changed the way we view and police respond to crimes involving children. It's also the story of a community coming together for a family they didn't even know to try and make that family whole again.
In San Francisco's Western Addition neighborhood, Ann and David Collins are raising their 8 kids in a 5-bedroom apartment on Sutter Street.
My name is Ann Collins. I'm the mother of Kevin Collins. The girls were the first 2, Laura and Michelle, and then came Michael and Stephen, and then my son Gary, and then Kevin came, and Kenneth and Brian.
I'm Jackie Deasy. I'm Kevin Collins' aunt. It was just kids all over the place, laughing and fighting and sliding down banisters on the stairwell. I mean, it was pandemonium.
Some children will make themselves be known, and others are very quiet. Kevin was one of the ones that was very quiet.
Kevin Collins didn't say much, but he always has a brother around to play with.
There were 6 boys in the family. The kids used to say he was the tough one of the younger kids.
My name is Michael Deasy, and I'm Kevin Collins' uncle. Kevin was a very rambunctious kid, and he was just all boy.
Kevin struggles a bit academically and always needs a little extra help.
He had dyslexia, but he worked so very, very hard at that. He had to go to special classes and all that kind of stuff.
As he's getting close to his 10th birthday, Kevin, who has really had to fight for his place at the dinner table, is beginning to blossom and come into his own.
I'm Laura Collins, and I'm Kevin's oldest sister. He had gone to a friend of ours who was telling him, it's my birthday. He goes, I know, it's my birthday too. I'm gonna be 10. And he was so excited to be 10, and he was in a good place.
I'm Michelle Collins, and I'm Kevin's older sister. Him turning 10 was much more like showing his independence.
Kevin came from a traditionally large Irish Catholic family. Most nights they would actually gather around the dinner table and eat together.
We'd say grace together every night as a family, then talk about our day, and usually a lot of yelling and carrying on.
The Collins family lives in the Western Addition, a culturally mixed neighborhood that includes the Fillmore district.
There was always something happening, and we never had anything, but everything we had, we shared with people.
The Collins kids are the 3rd generation of Collinses to attend the neighborhood Catholic school, St. Agnes.
In those days, the kids played hide and seek in the street. No one had any worries.
On the afternoon of February 10th, Kevin was at St. Agnes for basketball practice. That evening, as they gather around the dinner table, they notice that Kevin's seat is empty.
Usually the coach would always drop Kevin off when it got about 6:45, like he should have been home. I called the coach and I said, Kevin isn't here. And he said, oh my gosh.
The basketball coach confirms that Kevin was at practice, But for some reason, Kevin didn't get into the coach's van for the ride home.
And that's when we all realized Kevin had disappeared.
Maybe he was wandering around the neighborhood. David and Stephen was home, one of my older boys. So they went over to Haight Street.
They went out and retraced what his steps would have been.
During the search, the Collins family runs into a family friend who says that he saw Kevin earlier that evening waiting for the bus at the corner of Masonic and Oak.
He said he saw a little boy in St. Agnes uniform. He said he knew it was Kevin's.
So when they couldn't find him, they drove to the police station.
They said, well, he's just playing with friends. And so they didn't do anything. And that's when we found out that, at least in San Francisco, the police in those days didn't respond for up to 3 days if a kid turns up missing.
Frustrated by the police department's response, David decides to search the Haight-Ashbury section of San Francisco himself, looking for Kevin. Anne sticks by the phone in case anyone calls with any news about Kevin. When the phone never rings, Anne decides to call her older daughters, Michelle and Laura, who are living out on their own, to let them know that Kevin is missing.
My mom said Kevin didn't come home last night, and my little brothers never did that. I knew immediately something was very wrong.
And I was in shock.
Both girls race home to help their family find Kevin, who's now been missing for 2 days.
Michelle was there, and I looked at her, and we both just started crying. We both knew, but we didn't know really what it meant until we were alone with each other.
3 days after Kevin disappears, San Francisco police meet with David and Ann Collins at their apartment.
I'm Rich Hesselroth. I was the inspector assigned to the Kevin Collins case. When there's a missing child, we look at it. What kind of a home was this? Was everything good with the family?
When the detectives came, they said, well, maybe he's a runaway. And I said, there's no reason for him to run away.
We found the person who remembers seeing Kevin at the bus stop. That is the last time we can pinpoint that anybody had seen him.
The investigators' search is really aided by the Collins family. Anne has a twin brother, Michael. He's also participating in the search, and all of their friends in the neighborhood are helping.
The most important thing to do was get his face out there. We put together an emergency flyer. It was a picture of Kevin with, "We love you, Kevin. Where are you?"
You couldn't go anywhere without seeing a poster of Kevin.
The rectory at St. Agnes becomes the command center in their efforts to find Kevin. Telephones are installed, hoping that someone may provide a lead. Meanwhile, San Francisco police detectives continued to canvass the neighborhood, hoping that someone saw something.
It's now been 7 days since Kevin went missing, and the phone lines at St. Agnes are receiving calls from people who believe that they saw Kevin the night he went missing. All of those tips are passed on to police.
One of his classmates said he saw him up at Masonic and Haight.
Standing by him was a white man with a big Great Dane dog, and he reported that to the police.
Another witness tells police that Kevin and a man with a dog were talking further down the block from the bus stop in front of a home. So detectives knock on the door of this home to find out if the residents there know anything at all about Kevin and where he could be.
I remember the person who lived there, when he first opened the door and we showed him who we were, he said, "Oh, I've been expecting you."
In February of 1984, 10-year-old Kevin Collins is missing in the Haight-Ashbury area of San Francisco. 4 days after Kevin's disappearance, police visit the house where witnesses have told them Kevin was last seen.
The initial investigation determined that person with the Great Dane dog was Dan Terrian, who lived just about a block away from the corner where Kevin was standing.
Police want to question Dan and see if he knows anything. He surprises them with a very unusual greeting.
Said, "Oh, I've been expecting you." I thought it was a little strange that, did he know something about it?
Terrian then admits that he's been arrested in the past, which surprises investigators.
Often if somebody has been a suspect in a previous crime, they might not be surprised the cops come knocking at their door to talk to them.
When police look closer into Terrian's background, they find he was arrested in 1981 for a crime involving a child.
Dan was arrested about 2 years prior in the Fisherman's Wharf area and did take a child out of a store there. The child was able to run or scream, and a radio car was able to take Dan into custody.
Terrian had skipped his bail, was rearrested, and sentenced to 6 months in prison.
You find out his past, the light bulbs have to come on.
Dan's not alone. He actually has a roommate named Jack Chow. But unlike Dan, Chow doesn't have an arrest record. Police asked if they could search the home, and they gave them permission.
We found nothing suspicious as we looked through the house or through the basement or through the backyard.
He denied any knowledge of Kevin's disappearance, and the inspectors didn't find any visible evidence of Kevin being there.
Despite the fact that Dan Terrian owns a large dog and that he's been arrested for molesting a child, there's really no evidence to connect him or his roommate to Kevin, so police leave the house. But the next day, they take Terrian's mugshot from his previous arrest and they place it in a photo spread.
The two witnesses weren't able to pick him out of the lineup, so they moved on.
As far as I knew, it never went any further. They were just overwhelmed, I'm sure.
10 days after Kevin's disappearance, an overwhelming dread is growing for the entire Collins family. David is frantically and relentlessly searching the neighborhood for his son. But Anne is growing increasingly despondent.
I didn't leave the house probably for 2 weeks because I didn't want to miss his call.
Because Anne is so distraught over the disappearance of Kevin, her 2 older girls take over the care of the 3 younger boys.
We just became their parents for a little while. We would take them to school and do their homework with them and cook and clean, and we just wouldn't let them out of our sight.
Police learn that the Collins family hasn't always been a picture of harmony. They uncover information involving a foster child who had lived with the Collins family for a little while.
The police detective told me that they were looking into this report that David had broken our foster child's leg. So did I think David would have had anything to do with it? And I told him absolutely not. Why would he want to kill Kevin? I mean, it didn't make any sense to me.
Investigators zero in on David Collins as a suspect.
They made David take a lie detector test. They never made me take a lie detector test.
They cleared my father pretty soon, though. Within the first week or so, they were saying that it wasn't my father.
After David passes the lie detector test, police look at other possible scenarios about where Kevin could be, but they're all dead ends.
Kevin just disappeared. We don't know where he went or how he got there.
This was a total mystery.
As police investigators are trying to understand what happened to Kevin Collins, local attention on this little boy's disappearance snowballs.
A local dairy farmer had this great idea to put Kevin's face on the side of their milk cartons. He was one of the first, and within weeks, Kevin's face was on every kitchen table in America, along with the faces of other missing children.
Seeing the milk carton every day, even if it wasn't Kevin, psychologically, it was extremely traumatic.
All this attention helps Anne snap out of her depression and join David on a mission to find their son.
We started a foundation because people came to us and said you could help others.
My parents decided to incorporate as a nonprofit mission because 24/7, that's what they were doing, was looking for Kevin.
We put in a 24-hour hotline, and that was one of the hard things for me. The hotline was at our home, so it was never off.
Anne and David are really doing everything they can think of to keep Kevin's face out in the public eye.
People are just responding everywhere, and I think they're tired of this. They just steal our children and get away with it.
I just keep hoping that I'll see him again.
And that completely consuming effort is taking over their entire lives.
We'd go to all these city street fairs and set up a booth with pictures of missing children.
They were gone all the time looking for Kevin. My parents would come home exhausted and emotionally drained and try to get sleep, and next morning start all over again.
4 weeks after he vanished, Kevin is actually pictured on the cover of Newsweek. He becomes a household name, but for all the wrong reasons.
Kevin's face became very popular because of that photo. That photo was taken in class, and there's just a quality to that. Still bothers me today.
The Newsweek cover story inspires police, local communities, and an army of self-appointed psychics who really think that they know where Kevin is.
There was an 800 phone line in our house that rang all hours of the night. We had every psychic known to man call us, trying to give us advice.
None of the hundreds of psychic tips pan out to anything. But in time, the investigation crosses paths with one of the worst massacres in the history of California. 2 horrific serial killers working together as a team. Ten-year-old Kevin Collins has been missing for nearly 17 months. The desperate search for this little boy has sparked a national interest in this case. Police began looking at other crimes in the Bay Area and learned that a bizarre, sadistic duo with ties to San Francisco could be connected to Kevin.
My name is Ron McFall. I was the detective sergeant and supervisor during the Charles Ng Leonard Lake investigation. I got a call one day from San Francisco Police Department Missing Persons Unit about an incident that had happened on June 2nd, 1985. A subject who was an Asian male had stolen a vise and walked out of the store without paying for it.
The store clerk alerts police to the theft, and they quickly show up at the parking lot. But they find another man. He tells police his name is Scott Stapley.
When the officer looked in the vehicle, he saw the vise but also saw a .22 pistol with a silencer attached.
Scott Stapley tells police that the person who stole the vise is a man named Charles Ng, but they arrest him anyway because he had a gun on him and an illegal silencer. The police take Scott Stapley to the county lockup where he's fingerprinted, and they learn he is not Scott Stapley. Instead, he's a man named Leonard Lake.
In the interview room, Leonard Lake said that he wanted a glass of water. So the investigator got the water and brought it back to him. After a couple of minutes, he started getting sick and then went into convulsions.
Leonard Lake lingers in a coma for 6 days before he dies.
He had actually taken a cyanide pill, which was attached to his lapel under his shirt collar.
But what police want to know is why he committed suicide rather than be taken into custody.
The officers looked at the vehicle that Lake had been in, and they saw a piece of paper that had a Wilseyville address in Calaveras County.
So police go to this address. It's a remote cabin in the Sierra Nevada mountains, and what they discover there is nothing less than a chamber of horrors.
When we went into the workshop, it was a small little room, a cell. And we're thinking people were actually held in here.
Inside the room, police find restraints and torture devices, and they also discover pictures of some of the victims that appear to have been held captive in this dungeon. Police then search the grounds surrounding the cabin, and they discover evidence of a murder mill.
We found 50 pounds worth of bone fragments at various burn sites. They had scattered the bones in the yard area.
Investigators believe that the bones are the remains of multiple victims.
We also found 2 videotapes, and we looked at the videos, and we realized that we had a number of female victims in this case. At some point, Lake would kill them, and then he would burn their flesh.
Investigators find treasure maps that actually lead them to 2 5-gallon buckets that they dug up out of the ground. Inside these 2 buckets are the names and personal identifications of what police believe are many victims of Lake and his missing accomplice, Charles Ng.
We found a journal from Leonard Lake that covered a couple of years, 1983, 1984, and into 1985.
From what investigators are able to piece together, Ng and Lake joined forces to play out their sadistic torture fantasies at this remote site. Through Leonard Lake's journals, police discover that some of their victims were abducted from the neighborhood where Kevin Collins went missing.
In 1984 and 85, Charles Ng and Leonard Lake went back and forth between San Francisco and Wilseyville, looking for victims.
They would kidnap prey off the streets, eerily similar situation to what happened to Kevin Collins. This depraved tale of murder fills San Francisco headlines and catches the attention of detectives and prosecutors.
I contacted the investigation team and said, hey, do these guys have anything to do with Kevin Collins?
Kevin Collins disappeared pretty close to the same area where some of these victims on our murder had lived.
There were many victims that could not be identified, and it always left open who were these other victims.
A newspaper person called me and said, oh, what do you think about Kevin's bones being found in this place? Do they think that Kevin's bones are there? That was the first time he had heard about that case. That made me really angry.
Police are able to identify 6 adults and 2 small children as some of Lake and Ng's victims. But police know there are definitely more victims based on the number of bones they've found. The question is, could they be Kevin's?
It ended up that Charles Ng and Leonard Lake had kidnapped a bunch of people. We were following it because anything about missing people we were interested in.
Identifying the bones takes months of painstaking forensic analysis. But for the Collins family, it's another dead end. None of the bones are Kevin's.
They found no connection to Kevin Collins being involved with that one.
There wasn't any good information. It's frustrating beyond all bounds.
Charles Ng is eventually captured in Canada, and he was convicted for the murders of 6 men, 3 women, and 2 infants. David and Ann continued to travel the country, trying to raise awareness to Kevin's case. Back home, their 7 other children are surrounded by reminders of Kevin and his disappearance.
I stepped back from like the public work for a while and stayed home with the boys. And that was safe, and I felt better about doing that.
But while some of them managed to find a source of strength, others in the family are really falling apart.
I started having debilitating panic attacks for about 5 years. It would feel like the walls are closing in on me, and it was horrible.
Eventually, the strain of Kevin's disappearance causes Michelle and 2 brothers to drop out of school. And the younger boys are afraid to even leave the apartment.
There was all of the emotional fallout from the trauma. The younger kids were 11, 9, and 8. We all started having nightmares for years and years after Kevin disappeared.
Just as David and Ann Collins are recovering from the Lake and Ng investigation and the possibility that their son Kevin was a victim, another lead pulls them in.
John Dunkel committed a residential burglary. They sentenced him to 6 years and was sent down to the men's colony in San Luis Obispo.
A man named John Dunkel was talking to his cellmate, and Dunkel mentioned 3 murders of 3 pubescent boys.
The Collins family has been ripped apart by Kevin's disappearance in San Francisco. And just when the investigation is appearing to be growing cold, in 1986, police discover a horrific series of murders in the Bay Area that were committed by a killer who is targeting young boys. An inmate who's incarcerated at the San Luis Obispo State Prison tells authorities that he has information about a child killer.
He went to the prison authorities and said, my cellmate, John Dunkel, who was in prison for a residential burglary, has been telling me about how he killed young men.
John Dunkel tells his cellmate that he had killed 2 12-year-old boys and 1 15-year-old boy between 1981 and 1984 in Northern California.
But there was a 4th murder that he talked about that he didn't know the name.
It turns out that John Dunkel has been the prime suspect in 3 murders for a while. So the police asked John Dunkel to speak to them about the boys' deaths, and Dunkel agrees.
Dunkel said, I'll only talk to FBI agents. So we got a couple FBI agents, and he did give them a full confession. He said that he wanted to see what it felt like to kill and that he got a pleasure in killing. He talked about a victim who he had kidnapped and thrown off the Golden Gate Bridge.
Dunkel is brought up on murder charges in San Mateo County, and when San Francisco detectives get wind of that case, they want to interview the confessed child killer to see if Kevin Collins could possibly be that 4th unknown victim.
Dunkel was picking up kids and giving them rides, and that's something he was noted for. Kevin Collins fits his preferred victim.
As police investigate Dunkel and his possible connection to the Kevin Collins case, they learn that he was briefly employed with the IRS in San Francisco at the very time that Kevin disappeared.
You might have known the area, sort of what we call in the business supporting facts, but nothing that makes a case.
San Francisco police are now even more interested in Dunkel, and they visit him while he's awaiting trial in the hopes that he's going to identify the unnamed victim.
When the San Francisco PD detective went to interview him, John Dunkel wouldn't go into any of the murders at all.
After confessing to killing 3 boys, now Dunkel is unwilling to cooperate.
But ultimately, San Francisco PD did not have the evidence to tie him to the Kevin Collins disappearance and possible murder.
By now, it's been 4 years after Kevin's disappearance, and Ann Collins comes to the realization that however important the foundation mission is, her family really needs her more.
I quit the foundation. I just couldn't do that anymore.
David sees this as her giving up on the search for Kevin, and it creates a rift between them that ultimately leads to divorce in 1989.
When my parents got divorced, it wasn't really a surprise to me. This takes a really heavy toll on people's marriages.
There was just so much stress. And finally, Ann couldn't take it anymore.
After 10 years of not having any answers and with no grave of Kevin's to visit, the family decides on February 10th of 1994 to hold a private memorial and dedicate a simple marble bench in Kevin's memory.
I think all of us had come to the conclusion that he was gone. The bench is a reminder, it's not a grave.
The family got together. It was raining. Excuse me. It was raining that day. We were at Holy Cross Cemetery, and we had a service, and that had to put some kind of a closure. So the kids can go on with their life.
In 2013, Kevin Collins' family is really putting a lot of pressure on the San Francisco Police Department to solve this case. So they decide to reopen the investigation in the hopes that they will find out what happened to Kevin Collins.
We took over the Kevin Collins case as a cold case homicide. When we started at the beginning,
When cold case inspectors take a look at this case with a fresh set of eyes, the investigation leads back to the one solid lead that detectives learned of in the days following Kevin's disappearance.
we couldn't get past that Kevin Collins was with a man standing there with a dog the day of his disappearance.
Investigators focus on the man with the black dog, Dan Terrian, whom they had interviewed back in 1984.
He had molested this boy on the Fisherman's Wharf before Kevin. The San Francisco police did not ever follow back up with him.
With advancements in technology and computer databases, police dig deeper into Dan's background. They discovered that the man with the dog had faced other charges that they were totally unaware of.
We found out that Dan was wanted in Canada for kidnapping and molesting 2 young boys.
Terrian jumped bail in Canada and had made it to the Bay Area.
After all these years, we learned about this man was a possible suspect, and he was a registered pedophile.
They told us for the first time that San Francisco police had known about him all along, which we didn't know, and why it was never followed up on. We didn't know anything about that.
He had fled from Canada for molesting 2 boys there, and he molested this boy on the Fisherman's Wharf before Kevin. And so these detectives were like, this is our guy.
Even with this new information of other molestations, Dan has managed to slip away once again.
And we found that he had died in San Francisco.
In 1984, when police had searched Terrian's house and his backyard, there was no indication that they had actually examined the garage area. Cold case detectives contact the current owner and request to visit the home, this time with cadaver dogs.
The owner gave us permission to go into the garage area, and we had a cadaver dog with us that reacted. We then obtained a search warrant asking permission to dig up the garage area.
29 years after Kevin Collins disappeared, a secret under the garage floor may finally provide answers for his family. But the excavation might also confirm their darkest fears about what happened to Kevin when he went missing.
It's this roller coaster ride, and you always have hope that the story will be closed.
In 2013, San Francisco police are preparing to execute a search warrant at the former home of Dan Terrian, the man with the black dog who witnesses reported seeing Kevin Collins with the night Kevin disappeared. And this really could be the moment that the Collins family finally gets answers.
I saw it on the TV that they were going into this house, and they started tearing up the garage.
We jackhammered all the cement of the garage area.
I thought, well, this is probably it.
They dig up the concrete, they scrape away the earth, and eventually they find bones.
It ripped the scab off the wound for all of us. That just took us all back to this place where we were like reliving it all over again.
The medical examiner's office runs tests to determine the bone's origin, but it's not a match.
As police continue to investigate Dan and his possible connection to Kevin's disappearance, they realize that his roommate, Jack Chow, was actually more than that. The two had a romantic relationship. And when Dan died, Chow moved to Canada.
It took a great deal of time to locate him, and the Canadian authorities helped us. Then Terrian's partner agreed to talk to us. We interviewed him twice.
Detectives speak with Chow, and he's questioned about his and Dan's possible involvement in Kevin's disappearance. By the time the interview had been completed, investigators really have no doubt that Dan Terrian was the last person with Kevin Collins the night Kevin went missing.
He gave information that led us to believe that Dan Terrian is the person that kidnapped Kevin Collins.
The investigation has led the police right back to the one solid lead they had learned of in the days after Kevin disappeared.
I think that Kevin was in that house, and whatever happened there. And then his body was disposed, I would even think, that night.
Police suspect that Jack Chow knows more than he's saying, and Kevin's family approaches police with the idea of an immunity deal for Chow that would permit him to speak more about what he knows.
We told them we would support an offer of immunity from all crimes or all knowledge that this partner may have had if he'll just tell us what he knows about what his partner did to Kevin.
I've gone back and forth with the police for the last 5 years, and they don't communicate with us. They said they would do that, but they never did. My fear is that this person in Canada is going to pass away with all the knowledge that he has that pertains to Kevin. And and we get nothing.
After thinking that they're finally going to get answers, the search for Kevin has come up empty. But the Collins family can't really shake the feeling that Dan Therien was the perpetrator who took their beloved Kevin.
That was upsetting, because if he is the one, he got away with it.
I have regrets that Kevin has never been found, and by the time we got on to this suspect, he had passed away, and we were never able to prosecute Dan Therien for the disappearance of Kevin Collins. But I believe he's the person responsible.
Although the family feels like they're closer to knowing the truth, there's a sense that justice for Kevin will never really occur until they have answers.
For years, we were told it could never be solved. There was no body, there was no evidence, there was no suspect. And now that there is, it should be solved, and they should be putting their resources towards that. We owe it to Kevin. We can't let this go.
When Kevin disappeared, I honestly thought we were going to find him. So I started saving all the articles. So when Kevin did come home, I can say, we loved you so much that we tried as hard as we could to find you. Look at this. You remember this?
Oh, wow.
I remember that.
It's like a shock to see my child on the cover of Newsweek.
March 19th of '84.
Yeah, it was. I remember very clearly. There's me, Uncle Michael, and Mom.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
If we can keep Kevin's name alive, eventually something or someone will say something. We'll trip up and we can find out the truth of what happened.
The murder of a child is probably right up there with some of the worst things people can experience in life. We don't have proof that he's dead, but we want to have some kind of statement that shows that he existed. And when your child's missing, you're left with only the grief and the suffering.
His birthday's extremely hard. Anniversary's extremely hard. So I still grieve for Kevin. To me, Kevin's still that little 10-year-old boy, and he always will be. So